Hey guys, so in the last video we did a tour of the machine through the unboxing. Now today I wanted to do the next step before we hit the seasoning, which hopefully the weather's quite nice. I'll be able to do that today without having any issue with the rain like we've been having for a little while here. So let's get at it. Now we're going to do the maintenance side, which is needed before you do the season, and just to make sure everything's running all right. So one of the first things that I noticed right off the bat, when my friend prematurely, he got too excited, he hit the PRS button, and what ended up happening was we heard this really bad grinding sound, and I couldn't figure out what it was for a couple seconds there, but then I decided to open up the chamber. So I'm going to show you what happened. Now, I don't know if you remember or not, but I was having an issue with this handle installing it. So the handle itself is comprised of three parts, right? You got the actual handle itself, you got a nylon washer, and then you have the set screw that goes from down here through the double plate all the way through. Now, this was installed incorrectly because I was too excited about getting the roaster and setting everything up for the video. Now, the proper way is to get your Allen key and to make sure that that set screw is flush with that back plate, because if it's not, what you're gonna get is like what I got, which was a terrible grinding noise. And that's because that set screw will be grinding up against the drum, the rim of the drum right there. So now it's nice and flush, no problems. So the manual talks about making sure that you do a quick run through of everything. So for example, my issue with the handle here was actually in the maintenance section about issues with the grinding sound. Other things that the manual talks about is to make sure that there's no wiggle room in your drum, that nothing's moving that shouldn't be moving. To take out the chaff in the back, the collector itself, to make sure that everything is as it should, that the belts are nice and tight and that they're snug. And that sort of thing that we did the last time in the unboxing. Now, there's one last test to do, which is put a kilo of coffee inside the drum to make sure that the drum still moves and there's no jumping of the belts. And I'm about to do that too. So, according to the manual, it's a pretty easy process. All you have to do is you hit your PRS button 3 times. 1, 2, 3.
Has started.
Change your heating temperature down to 0, then add your coffee in and start listening for loud thumping sounds or anything that's kind of out of the ordinary. Now, if you notice too, there will be some chaff that comes out of here. There's actually been quite a few pieces that come out already, and that's also beneficial. So you got loose chaff that comes out here, and then you have the chaff that comes in the chaff collector in the back side. So everything seems pretty normal. So I'm going to go ahead and empty it out.
Roasting finished.
So now we get to do the fun part, sort of. It's kind of a waste of your money, but the more you do it, the better it is for your machine. It's the seasoning of the drum. Now, the reason why you gotta season it is because the oils of the coffee will actually coat the metal here, and even if you read it in the manual, it actually says they obviously don't recommend drinking this coffee, so this is all straight to the bin, straight to the garbage. But what this drum needs is actually the oils from the coffee to coat it and to seal it in. It's like when you get a cast iron pan, you have to do the same sort of thing. You got to actually season the pan. But this is obviously a drum. So we get to do it now. Now we get to see Maria in action. So the first thing that we have to do in seasoning the drum is to preheat the roaster to 160 degrees and then wait for the bean temperature to hit 110. Then we press the PRS button and the lights will flash. Then that's when we add the beans. So we're going to do 5 times of 500 grams of green beans. And obviously you don't need to use your good stuff for this. I'm using Vietnamese coffee, I'm using some Brazil, just some cheap stuff that you have, whether it's leftover or whatever the case is. And then we were going to roast it until second crack, just to get those beans nice and oily. And then we repeat it 5 times.
Preheating.
Alright, so now we're going to take out our stopper. Funnel.
Charge.
So we hit it again, and that tells us that we can charge it, which means load the beans in.
Roasting has started.
And that's it. So at this point, this is the yellowing mark, which you're able to actually mark on the software itself. But I wanted to show the smoke a little bit. So it's not let me get a better angle. It's not a significant amount in terms of how dark it is, but it is definitely putting out the smoke. Now, that's to be expected. That's why they recommend the having that exhaust adapter, and they give you the 3D files for it. So, you know, so you can vent it out the window, or you can vent it out, I don't know, around the corner or wherever. But that's why I decided to do this outside today. One, it's a glorious day outside, but two, you know, so I can let all the smoke just annoy the neighbors. So this would be a good time for me to go ahead and show off the software here. Now, the software has a fully functioning interface here. Now, the interface itself, I can actually change. If I go to drum speeds, I can change that higher power, faster drum speed, faster fans. You can see the instant change there. So yeah, the interface itself goes through USB and goes to the back of the panel here. And it plugs right in there. And that's just a micro USB cord. So you can see the profile here. And that's that. It also has, I'm hearing first crack. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit first crack. And then that'll put that blue mark on there. So let me know when it hits. I also hit that right there, the yellow mark, and that's when it was starting to yellow. And the benefit of that is to know how exactly your coffee is progressing. So you can see how the smoke is coming pretty heavy now. So that's because we are hitting our second crack. Now I'm just going to let it finish just so that to make sure that it gets all the oils it needs. But I think I'm pretty happy with the way it is.
Roasting finished.
So I roasted a couple days ago, and I was editing all the footage, and I realized that I didn't give kind of a breakdown of what was maybe pros and cons about the machine, kind of like a final thought. So just quick little snippets. I took some notes at the time. So one of the things was that the roaster took about 20 minutes to heat up, which is significant for someone like me that came off of smaller roasters, which would have been like the Baymore and kind of like electric roasters like that. But the Baymore is more of like an electric oven, whereas this is an actual drum roaster, so it makes sense. And that being said, even though it took 20 minutes to heat up, it stayed hot. Like after you turned it off, it was a good 30 minutes before you could even, say for instance, to touch your hand inside if you wanted to, I don't know, clean something out, right? And on the upside as well, during roasting at full temp while the thing was going, you can actually touch the body. So it was actually nice and warm. It wasn't very hot at all, which means I might actually label Maria. I might put like a little sticker on her or something and give her a little branding, you know what I mean? The roast took quite a while. They took about, it was set about 20 minutes to second crack. And that could have been caused because I had really low voltage on the circuit. I was measuring out 106, and it's easy to tell what the voltage you have because the actual software itself has the voltage setting right there on the side on the pane, and it would say, you know, like 106, and it would update every now and then, but it stayed within 106 to 104. So there may have been a lot on that circuit that I was not aware of, that I couldn't turn off, right? That being said, I'm guessing that's why it took that long. That brings me to the software itself. The software itself is really good. Really good. I mean, being able to, you know, identify second crack, first crack, and the yellowing portion of any given roast is quite a great feature to have. When you're able to get everything set up, you can put in your own beans, and you can put in what kind of, you know, origins they're from, where maybe even the farms themselves, right? Which is a really cool feature, especially for nowadays where everyone is really looking for more like organic, more fair trade, more locally, not locally sourced, but you know what I mean, where people are looking for the actual farmers and that sort of touch. So it's a really cool feature to have because then everything's set in the software. Also, in the software, there's the ability to change the program, to change the heat applied, like I showed, to change the fan speed, the drum speed, and it's just that all in all, it's a great little program that they have. The only downside I would say is that they seriously need to put like an inventory sort of system in there, because it's a great little program, it really is, but it would be good so that you knew, say you're going to do 1 kilo of Salvadorian beans, for example. It'd be nice to know that you have, you know, 2.5 in stock, and then you can pull that 1 kilo out, and then maybe if you're doing, say, a blend of Salvadorian and whatever you want, or Brazilian and whatever, it'd be nice so that you can just put in, you know, I'm taking out 300 grams of this, 500 of this, 200 of this, whatever the case, whatever your ratios are, and then it would automatically subtract it from the stock. That would be, bar none, one of the greatest additions to that software, because it really is a good software. The downside is I also noticed that the chaff collector, the filter, the metal filter that we had when I took out the housing, that assembly there, I don't know if you remember that I was having a hard time putting it back in. Well, anyways, when the blower, the squirrel cage, the blower for the exhaust fan was actually going, I found that the metal filter would actually get sucked out of the rubber fitting that it was in, and it would actually be pulled into the blower. So that tells me that that blower's really good. There's a lot of power to it, it really is. But just that the fact that it so easily came out is really troublesome, because it would make a really, I mean, it's aluminum, right? So it's really thin aluminum. Both the chaff collector, well, it might be steel, but it's a very thin steel if it's that. But the squirrel cage blower itself is actually aluminum, and so you get this really light grinding, like that just doesn't fit, and it really sounds bad. And that's one of the annoying things that maybe I have to work with the rubber seal on it. And the last thing is that it creates a lot of smoke. Now, I've only been privy to machines that have smoke suppression systems built in. So for me, having to see all the smoke already at, you know, just the yellowing portion, like before you even hit cinnamon roast, there's smoke there. Now, I showed it in the video how we were getting that white smoke that was coming out. And again, I don't know if that's part of the seasoning because of, you know, the drum hasn't been seasoned yet, or maybe that's just the way it is. Again, really take advantage of those 3D print files for the ABS or that exhaust filter, that adapter there, because that's what I'm going to do as well, so that I can port it outside or whatever if I'm doing it inside. And if I'm doing it outside as well, I'm just going to port it, you know, like around the corner, because it really is a lot of smoke. And then once you get to second crack, once you hit second crack, if you're going to be doing anything near that dark, for me that's not really an issue because I'm not that big of a fan of that full city plus, you know what I mean, like dark kind of almost, well, it's almost like a French roast where it's almost to the oily portion. That's a lot of smoke and it comes out thick and heavy. I was having a fan that I knew was on a different circuit, but that fan was actually blowing it around the corner, which is I'm really grateful for, because I was kind of in that little enclosure there, and that would have smoked me out. But I think that's it. So all in all, great experience seasoning, super easy, everything went well, minus that, you know, the filter getting pulled into the blower itself. Outside of that, everything was super easy. The instructions are there for following for installing the software, as well as the drivers. Now it's everything you can download it from their website, and then you extract it, and then when you extract it into your computer, you have to go to that file, go through it, go to the bin folder, and then there's like an executable file there for PC, and I'm sure it's a DMG for Mac. But that's basically it. So all in all, it was an awesome experience. Had a fun time. Can't wait to keep roasting with this thing. Just wanted to give some closure on what exactly I really thought and I felt, and kind of the last final thoughts, if you will, for the mechanical and the seasoning. I may have to do some alterations, and if I do, maybe I'll do a video on that as well if you guys want. Just let me know if that's something you're looking forward to or not, and that's it. So, happy roasting.